burnt his bridges fully with the British public. He's leaked out through Hello magazine how excited he is to be coming back on this, what we're calling the pseudo-royal tour. He has 4 days of visiting his patronages, which includes the Diana Award, the World Child Awards tonight, and so on and so on. He has made it known publicly that he would like to have a visit with his father, King Charles, who he last saw for that very famous 30-minute meeting in February last year, when he just sort of swamped his dad unannounced on the day that it was revealed that his father had, or just shortly after his father had revealed he had cancer to the world. Charles at the time was very worried. The roles were about information being leaked. And we've seen since February last year, Harry making a series of damning and strange statements, such as questioning how long, Eamon, his father, the king, has to live. That's not the sort of things you see on interviews to the likes of the BBC, for goodness sake. So you can understand why his father was very hurt, very upset. The rest of the royal family are. And that trust, as far as I can see, has been irretrievably broken between them. But Harry seems to think that of his choosing, because he's now got over whatever slights or hurt he had about his family, that now it should all be everything's forgotten, everything's forgiven, and he just wants to swoop back in as though nothing has happened and bring Meghan and his children. Well, I can't see Meghan really wanting to set foot back yet. I think she knows Harry's on a failed mission. But mission he is, and he is determined to see his dad one way or another.
OK, Sarah. Well, Jack, that's what Sarah has to say. What do you think? Because I think on a human level, it would be nice, wouldn't it, for a father who's been battling cancer to be reunited with his son, with whom he always had a very close relationship.
His son's not the problem. It's the pain in the backside. She is.
Well, she's not there.
She's always going to be there. She's always going to influence everything.
Jack, what do you think?
You're right. It's Meghan controls.
Sarah, let Jack have a word.
Sorry, I know Sarah said, nobody's interested in Harry anymore or what's going on with Harry, but here we are still talking about Harry today. So clearly there is still an interest in Harry and what Harry's doing. I do think that the king should see him. Do you know, the problem that we've had in the past is Harry's desperate to try and get back into the fold, and he's now found that the only way he can try and say that is through press, or through, like Sarah said, trying to leak it to somebody saying he's desperate to try and see his father. I know he said at the time, he didn't know how long his dad had left. Well, that is quite a normal thing to say about something where...
Family, welcome back to another deep dive episode of the Royal Sussex Squad, the home of truth, dignity and unwavering support for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Now today, we're going to talk about a story that the tabloids are trying to twist as usual, but which, if you look at it with a clear mind, actually exposes how Meghan carries herself with grace, integrity and class, even when people from her past are used as pawns to generate headlines. The article floating around is about Meghan's former friend, Jessica Mulroney, and her so-called decision not to write an autobiography about her friendship with Meghan. Yes, you heard that right. The media wants us to clutch our pearls because Jessica has decided not to spill secrets. Let me pause there. Why is that even newsworthy? Why is the Daily Mail or any tabloid salivating at the thought of a so-called friend betraying Meghan Markle in print? The answer is simple, because these vultures have been circling Meghan from the very beginning, looking for any weak link, any person who once stood close to her, to try and sell out her humanity for profit. But Jessica Mulroney has said absolutely not. No autobiography, no cash grab. And I want us to really unpack what this says about Meghan, about loyalty, about friendship, and about the toxic environment created around her by the British press. Let's go back for a moment. Meghan and Jessica met around 2014 in Toronto when Meghan was filming Suits. By all accounts, they bonded as women in the public eye, and their friendship blossomed. Jessica was front and centre at Meghan's royal wedding in 2018. Who could forget her children, the adorable twins in miniature versions of Harry's military dress uniform, and little Ivy as a flower girl walking alongside Princess Charlotte? That wedding wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a statement of inclusion, of diversity, of love that crossed boundaries, oceans and cultures. But here's the thing. Once Meghan married Harry, every person associated with her suddenly became a target. Friends, family, acquaintances. If you were in Meghan's orbit, the tabloids wanted a piece of you. And we saw it happen in real time. Jessica's name started appearing in the British press only because of her friendship with Meghan. The exposure wasn't organic, it wasn't earned. It was tabloid vultures feeding off Meghan's name. Then came 2020, when Jessica got caught up in a controversy involving race and social media. Now let's be clear. Meghan had already been a target of racialised abuse from the British media, and that same media gleefully tied her name to Jessica's scandal. Meghan, understanding how toxic and dangerous the situation was, cut ties. That was her right. That was her protecting herself, her family, and her peace. And yet the media tried to spin it as Meghan being cold or unforgiving. Now fast forward to today. Sources are claiming that Jessica could earn 7 figures if she spilled the tea on Meghan. Imagine that, the British tabloids fantasizing about someone cashing in by betraying Meghan. That tells you everything you need to know about their obsession. Meghan doesn't owe them her life story. Her friends don't owe them gossip, and yet they're dangling dollar signs like vultures circling over prey. But Jessica has said no. No autobiography, no cash grab, no betrayal. And here's where I want to pause and ask, isn't this proof of Meghan's character? Because let's be honest, when people fall out, especially in celebrity circles, there's often bitterness, revenge books, exposés. But Jessica has remained silent. She hasn't spoken publicly about Meghan. She hasn't written a tell-all. And why is that? Because deep down, Meghan treated her with kindness. Meghan treated her with love. Meghan treated her with loyalty until that loyalty was compromised by circumstances beyond her control. And even after the friendship ended, Meghan didn't drag Jessica through the mud. She didn't sit down for interviews bashing her. She simply moved on with dignity. But of course the tabloids won't frame it that way. Instead, they push the narrative that Meghan would be worried if Jessica ever did write a book. Excuse me? Worried about what? Meghan has lived her truth openly. She has already told her own story in her own voice. What could Jessica possibly say that Meghan herself hasn't already addressed with honesty? That narrative is just another attempt to paint Meghan as hiding secrets or afraid of exposure. It's the same tired trope they've been using for years. And let's not forget, this is the same Meghan who stood up in front of the world and said she was struggling, who said she felt unsupported, who told her truth in the Oprah interview, in her Netflix docuseries, in her own way. That is not a woman living in fear, that is a woman standing tall. Now, one of the most disturbing parts of this whole thing is the way the media frames Meghan as some kind of dark cloud in other people's lives. The article even quotes a so-called source, saying, Jessica now sees her friendship with Meghan as a dark cloud. That right there is projection. Meghan isn't the dark cloud. Racism is the dark cloud. Misogyny is the dark cloud. The British press's toxic obsession is the dark cloud. Meghan has always been the light in this story, and that's why they keep trying to dim it. This is what frustrates me. People fall out of friendships every single day. But when Meghan Markle is involved, it suddenly becomes international news. Why? Because Meghan is their golden goose. They can't stop themselves. And yet, no matter what angle they try, Meghan's dignity always shines through. Harry and Meghan have shown us repeatedly that they are building their lives on love, on service, on authenticity. They're not clinging to toxic relationships for exposure. They're not cashing in on betrayals. They are raising their children, building their foundation, and choosing peace over drama. Meanwhile, the tabloids can't let go of the hope that someone from Meghan's past will give them the dirt they crave. So when I read that Jessica Mulroney has decided not to write an autobiography, I didn't see that as a story about Meghan at all. I saw it as a story about how the media is desperate, how they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and how Meghan remains unbothered, unshaken and unbroken. Family, if anything, this story reminds us of the strength it takes to be Meghan Markle, to lose friendships, to be betrayed, to be lied about, and yet to keep going with grace. That is why the Sussex Squad stands with her. That is why Harry stands by her side. And that is why no matter how many false narratives they throw at her, the truth will always outshine the lies. So as we wrap up today's discussion, let's remember this. Meghan is not the problem. She never was. The problem is a media industry addicted to tearing down a successful, independent, biracial woman who dared to marry a prince and then dared to walk away from an institution that refused to protect her. And Jessica? Well, she made her choice. She chose silence over betrayal. And that silence speaks volumes about Meghan's true character. Meghan's former best friend rules out spilling secrets on Duchess despite their upsetting fallout. Jessica Mulroney and Meghan's friendship was on display for the world to see during the Duchess of Sussex's 2018 Windsor Castle wedding. Meghan Markle's former best friend has ruled out writing an autobiography that would provide details on her friendship with the Duchess of Sussex. Jessica Mulroney could earn up to 7 figures if she were prepared to discuss the breakdown in her high-profile friendship with Meghan, according to a publishing source. However, she has ruled out the prospect of an autobiography despite being upset that her friendship with Meghan ended. A source told the Mail that Meghan would be worried if Ms. Mulroney decided to press ahead with an autobiography. Ms. Mulroney is adamant that she has no plans to pen her own book and told the publication that she was absolutely not working on an autobiography. Jessica Mulroney gained prominence in Britain through her close association with Meghan, whom she befriended in 2014 whilst the future royal was residing in Toronto. The friendship was on display for the world to see during Meghan's 2018 Windsor Castle wedding, where Ms. Mulroney served as principal attendant to the bride. Her children played significant parts in the celebration, with Brian and John, her twin boys, serving as page attendants wearing miniature versions of Prince Harry's military dress uniform. Ms. Mulroney's daughter Ivy joined Princess Charlotte as a flower girl. The relationship between Jessica and Meghan deteriorated following a 2020 social media controversy involving Ms. Mulroney, and race-related issues with a blogger sparked public backlash. The Duchess of Sussex quickly severed ties with her former confidant following the incident. Ms. Mulroney has never spoken publicly about their friendship ending. Last month, a source told the Mail that Ms. Mulroney enjoyed the exposure her bond with Meghan brought at the time, but now sees it as a dark cloud that hangs over her following the end of their friendship. Last month, a source told the Mail that Ms. Mulroney enjoyed the exposure her bond with Meghan brought at the time, but now sees it as a dark cloud that hangs over her following the end of their friendship. The source said, while she enjoyed all the exposure it brought her at the time, that same exposure is what caused her social media rift to blow up in the way it did and led to the end of her friendship with Meghan. She really did consider Meghan family, but now she sees that whole time as a dark cloud. Thank you, family, for tuning in to another Royal Sussex Squad deep dive. If you value the truth, if you believe in supporting Harry and Meghan against the tidal wave of negativity, make sure you hit that subscribe button, join the conversation in the comments, and if you'd like to support the channel, don't forget you can donate directly through Super Thanks. Every contribution helps us keep shining a light on the truth and standing up for the Sussexes. Until next time, stay strong, stay united, and remember, Harry and Meghan's love is unshakable. Their integrity is untouchable, and their haters will always be unremarkable.